The periscope lens showed everything. Tessa's sleek ponytail catching firelight. Trevor's hands shaking as he unscrewed the gas can. My daughter's voice carried through the ventilation shaft, crisp as a boardroom directive. Pour it along the east wall first. We need the propane line to look like the ignition point. I pressed record on the camera. The red light blinked in the darkness of the shelter, 12 feet below what used to be my kitchen floor. My whisper barely reached the microphone. My kids are setting my cabin on fire to claim the money. They don't know I'm hiding with their voices on video. Trevor's laugh cracked high and nervous. You're sure the investigator will buy it? Dad's been off-grid for 10 years, Tessa said. Faulty wiring. Deteriorating structure. It writes itself. She tilted the can. Gasoline splashed against wood I'd sealed myself. Boards I'd carried up the mountain one summer when the kids were still in middle school. Back when they'd helped me sand the planks, complained about splinters, asked why we couldn't just hire someone. The smell hit 3 seconds later, seeping through the air shaft I designed for storm ventilation. Metallic, sweet, wrong. I should mention the shelter wasn't for paranoia. Colorado storms come fast at 8,000 feet. Lightning, flash floods, the occasional tornado dropping out of nowhere. I built it the second year, after spending 4 hours in my truck while hail the size of plums tried to punch through the windshield. Also needed somewhere fireproof for the hard drives. 10 years of footage. Grizzlies fishing in dawn light, wolf packs moving through January snow, a peregrine falcon teaching her chicks to dive. Everything that mattered, archived in waterproof cases along the west wall. 2 hours ago, I'd been upstairs transferring old mini DV tapes to digital. Tedious work. My back ached from sitting. I told the kids I was driving to Denver for a meeting with a potential distributor, some festival programmer who'd expressed vague interest. A lie, but a useful one. Bought me 3 uninterrupted days to work. Then I heard the car on the access road. My road. The 1-lane dirt track that dead ends at my clearing. Nobody uses it except me, and I was supposed to be gone. I grabbed my camera out of habit, filmmaker's document first, question later, and headed down to check the backup drives. The shelter's external entrance tunnel opens 60 yards east, hidden under deadfall near the creek bed. I've used it maybe twice. Mostly I take the interior ladder, the trapdoor disguised under a rug in the bedroom. The periscope was an indulgence. 360 degrees of rotating view, built for watching storms roll in across the peaks. I'd spent whole afternoons down here during electrical storms, filming lightning through the lens, perfectly safe while the world went white and violent above. Now I watched my children plan my erasure. Tessa moved with efficiency. She'd always been like that, even as a kid. Straight A's, color-coded planners, law school at 23. She pointed to the northwest corner. Make sure you get the workshop area. That's where he keeps kept the editing equipment. Kept, past tense. I was already gone in her grammar. Trevor sloshed more gasoline. He'd grown a beard since I'd seen him last Christmas. It didn't suit him. Made him look like he was trying too hard. What if someone saw us drive up? Who? The nearest neighbor is 4 miles down the mountain. Tessa checked her watch. We have 90 minutes before I call him. You need to sound devastated, Trevor. Cry if you can manage it. I can cry. Good. Philip's calling the fire department from Denver. He'll say he just got off the phone with Dad, that Dad mentioned smelling something electrical earlier this week. She pulled out her phone, started filming the cabin. Documentation for insurance, I realized. Evidence of the before state. The investigators already briefed. Graham made sure of it. Graham. I knew that name. Real estate developer, worked the western slope, turning ranchland into luxury retreats. We'd met once at a community meeting about watershed protection. Smooth talker, expensive boots. Mom's on board? Trevor asked. Linda confirmed Dad's been erratic, obsessed with the project, letting the property deteriorate. Tessa lowered her phone. It's not even a lie. Look at this place. I looked at it through the periscope. Saw what she saw, probably. Weathered siding, no satellite dish. Solar panels I'd installed myself, slightly crooked. The composting toilet system. The rain collection barrels. 15 years ago, Linda called it charming. Then she called it a phase. Then she called her lawyer. Trevor finished with the gasoline, set the can down carefully. What's Graham paying for the land? Enough to make this worth it. Tessa pulled a lighter from her jacket. Eco-resort. Luxury cabins. He's calling it sustainable development. Ironic, right? At least it'll still be about nature. She said it without smiling. My daughter, who'd majored in environmental policy, who'd written her thesis on conservation easements, who'd built a career advising corporations on green transitions. I'd been proud. The first flame caught along the east wall. Small at first, then the gasoline found its purpose. I kept filming, zoomed in on their faces. Tessa's expression was businesslike, almost bored. Trevor couldn't stop watching the fire spread. He looked sick. Good. Someone should. They backed away as the flames climbed. The cabin was dry timber, resinous pine. It wanted to burn. I'd known that when I built it, had installed the shelter partly for that reason. Everything burns eventually in these mountains. The trick is knowing what survives underground. Call me when you're back in Boulder, Tessa said. She was already walking toward her Audi, parked in the clearing. 90 minutes, devastated. Go. Trevor followed. His truck started. First, churning gravel. Then Tessa's engine, quieter, expensive. The sound faded down the mountain. My children, leaving me to burn. Except I wasn't burning. The shelter was concrete and steel, sunk into bedrock. The ventilation system had filters for smoke. I had water, food, a chemical toilet, a satellite phone for emergencies. The external tunnel. I could walk out right now, hike to the road, flag down a ranger. Instead, I rotated the periscope back to the cabin. Flames were punching through the roof. The workshop window exploded from heat. Inside that building, my desk, my kitchen table, my bed, the rocking chair Linda left behind, books I'd read until the spines cracked, photographs I'd meant to digitize. A life, or the shell of one. Below me, in fireproof cases, everything that actually mattered. I kept the camera on my own face for a moment. Looked at myself in the small flip-out screen. 52 years old, gray starting at the temples, laugh lines I'd earned watching bear cubs tumble over each other. I'd filmed a wolf teaching her pups to hunt by letting them fail, over and over until they understood timing. I'd documented an eagle pushing her chick out of the nest, because flight only happens after the fall. I knew what survival looked like. My voice came out steady when I whispered to the camera again. I'm not calling the fire department, I'm letting it burn. They need to believe it worked. The flames roared overhead. The periscope showed orange and black, heat shimmer, collapse. I sat in the darkness with 10 years of work and decided what came next. I waited 4 hours. Watched through the periscope as the flames ate through the roof beams, as walls folded inward, as everything that looked like my life became ash and ember. The fire burned hot and fast, the way mountain fires do when they have fuel and purpose. By the time the structure collapsed completely, the sun was setting behind the western ridge, turning the smoke purple and gold. The periscope showed nothing but foundation and ruin. Glowing spots where support posts used to stand. The metal roof twisted into abstract sculpture. My propane tank, mercifully, had vented without exploding. Tessa's investigator would be disappointed about that detail. I checked the ventilation filters, holding steady. The shelter's air was stale but breathable, tinged with the ghost smell of smoke that seeped through despite the seals. I'd done good work building this place. Better than I knew. The external tunnel was narrow, built for emergencies, lined with corrugated steel that amplified every sound. I crawled through on my hands and knees, pulling my camera bag and a backpack of hard drives behind me. 60 yards feels longer when you're dragging your life's work through a pipe barely wider than your shoulders. The exit hatch opened under a tangle of deadfall I'd arranged to look natural. I pushed through into twilight. The creek ran cold and clear 10 feet away, indifferent to catastrophe. I knelt beside it, splashed water on my face, tasted ash I'd been breathing without noticing. Behind me, up the slope, smoke still rose from what used to be my home. I didn't look back. Just followed the creek east, away from the access road, deeper into national forest. The surveying truck was where I'd left it 3 months ago, under a camo tarp weighted with rocks and pine branches. I kept it for the deep, backcountry chutes, the places my regular truck couldn't reach. Paid cash to a ranger's cousin who didn't ask questions. Registration under a name I'd use for filming in restricted areas, Mike Chen, wildlife researcher. Not legal, exactly, but useful. The engine turned over on the second try. I drove with the headlights off until I hit the county road, then headed south, away from my mountain, toward the kind of anonymity you can only find in highway exit towns where nobody cares who you are or where you're going. The motel was called the Timberline Lodge, which was generous. 2 stories of peeling paint and doors that didn't quite close right. The clerk was watching something on his phone and barely glanced at my ID when I paid cash for a week. Room 12, second floor. View of the parking lot and a Denny's. I set up fast. Laptop on the desk, hard drives connected, camera footage uploading. The video from the shelter was perfect. Crisp, clear, properly exposed despite the low light. Years of filming in difficult conditions teaches you to set your camera right instinctively. Tessa's face filled the screen, talking about insurance fraud and investigator bribes. Trevor's hands shaking as he poured gasoline. My daughter's voice, "At least it'll still be about nature." I watched it through twice. Filmmaker brain kicked in automatically, noting composition, audio levels, the way firelight created natural drama. Horrible, how the professional reflex never stops. I'd filmed a mountain lion killing an elk once, watched through the viewfinder as something beautiful died, and my first thought afterward was whether I'd nailed the focus. My phone had been off. I turned it on. Waited for the blow-up. 12 missed calls. Tessa, Trevor, Linda, numbers I didn't recognize. Voicemails stacked up like accusation. I listened to them in chronological order, making notes. Tessa, timestamp 6:47. Dad, hey, it's me. Just wanted to check in. Haven't heard from you in a few days. Call me back? Casual, practiced. The setup call, establishing her concern before the fire. Trevor, 7:15. Dad, tried calling earlier. Tess said you're in Denver? Anyway, call when you get this. Nervous even in voicemail, always was the weak link, then the shift. Linda, 8:32. Claire, I just heard about the cabin. Please call me, please. Trevor's trying to reach you. We're all so worried. Her voice broke convincingly. She'd always been good at performing emotion. 20 years of marriage taught me that. Tessa, 8:51. Dad, I'm on my way to the mountain. The sheriff called me. There was a fire. Your cabin. They think you were away, but nobody's confirmed. I need to hear your voice, please. Panic threading through the words, real or rehearsed. Impossible to tell. Trevor, 9:03. Claire, Jesus, please pick up. Tessa's losing it. We don't know if you're okay. The whole place is gone. Just call us. I let them sit there, those messages. Opened a new text thread to Tessa instead. Typed, just heard. I'm okay. In Denver still. Heading back tomorrow. Short, confused. Exactly what someone would send after hearing their home burn down while they were safely away. I watched the 3 dots appear immediately. Tessa typing, then her response. Thank God. Don't come back tonight. Roads blocked. Fire crew still there. I'll meet you tomorrow. Are you okay? Me, shocked. Can't believe it's gone. Tessa, we'll figure it out. Together. I'm so glad you're safe. I set the phone down, stared at that last message. We'll figure it out. Together. The same voice that had said make sure you get the workshop area just hours ago. The news was already online. Local stations loved mountain fires, the drama of wilderness consuming human ambition. Small item on the Summit County website. Fire destroys remote cabin, owner away at time of blaze. The fire chief was quoted, likely electrical in nature, common in off-grid structures. Fortunate no one was injured. Likely electrical. The investigator was earning his money. I pulled up a new browser tab. Searched Graham Reeves Development, Colorado. Found his company site. Luxury mountain retreats. Sustainable design. Partnerships with environmental groups. Testimonials from clients about respecting the land while improving access. Greenwashing dressed up in reclaimed timber and solar panels. One project caught my eye. Wildflower Ridge, opening spring 2026. Rendering showed high-end cabins tucked into aspen groves, a main lodge with floor-to-ceiling windows, a spa building designed to blend with natural rock formations. The location description mentioned reclaimed land in Summit County, previously underutilized. My mountain. Had to be. I kept searching. Found Graham's LinkedIn. 200 connections, including Tessa. They'd connected 8 months ago. Her profile showed her current position. Environmental consultant, Reeves Development Group. Since January. 6 months of my daughter working for the man who wanted my land. I stood up, paced the motel room. 12 steps wall to wall. The carpet smelled like decades of cigarettes and apology. I wanted to break something. Wanted to call Tessa and scream. Wanted to drive back to the mountain and dig through ash until I found something to prove this was real. Instead, I sat back down and opened my archive footage. Started scrolling through 10 years of work, found the files from year 3, summer shoots in the high meadows. There, a sequence I'd forgotten. Wolf pack teaching the juveniles to hunt. The mother let them chase a doe, let them fail, let them learn that exhaustion comes before success. The pups kept trying, kept failing. She watched from a distance, patient, letting them discover their own hunger. I'd titled that sequence Education. Seemed obvious at the time. Now I started a new project file, imported the shelter footage, began scrubbing through it, marking the good sections. Tessa's face in profile as she explained the insurance fraud. Trevor's visible nervousness. The moment the fire caught. Their phone documentation. The casual mention of Graham's timeline. The investigator's cooperation. Linda's willingness to confirm my instability. I'd spent a decade learning to make people care about animals. To take raw footage and shape it into something that landed emotionally. To build sequences that made viewers feel the weight of predator and prey, parent and offspring, survival and failure. I could do the same with this. The idea arrived fully formed. Not revenge, exactly. Not justice in any legal sense. Something else. Something I was built to do. I opened a new tab, searched Mountain Lens Film Festival. Regional Environmental Film Festival, 3 weeks away, 2 hours north in Blackstone. I'd submitted work there for years, never accepted. Too niche, they said. Too slow. Audiences wanted narrative, not observation. The festival's website showed the schedule. Opening night keynote. Sustainable Development and Legacy Land Use. A conversation with Tessa Rivera, environmental consultant. My daughter. Giving a speech about preserving wild spaces. 3 weeks from now. I checked the submission portal, still open for late entries in the short film category. I filled out the form. Filmmaker name, Claire Rivera. Title, Controlled Burn. Runtime, 23 minutes. Category, personal documentary. Description, a filmmaker examines family legacy and the cost of inheritance. Attached a 2-minute trailer, carefully edited to show only the beautiful parts. My 10 years of wilderness footage. My voiceover about what we pass down to our children. The cabin in golden hour light. Nothing incriminating. Just enough to intrigue. Submitted at 11:42 p.m. The confirmation email arrived instantly. Thank you for your submission. Selections announced in 1 week. I saved all the files. Backed everything up twice. Then I lay down on the motel bed, still wearing my boots, and stared at the water-stained ceiling tiles until my phone buzzed. Tessa, fire investigator wants to meet tomorrow at 10 a.m. Can you make it? Me. Where? Tessa, sheriff's office in Blackstone. I'll be there. Trevor, too. We'll get through this. I read that last line 3 times. We'll get through this. The same we that had poured gasoline. The same we that planned my erasure. The same we that was going to profit from my ashes. Me. See you there. I set an alarm for 7. Closed my eyes. Tried to sleep but kept seeing Tessa's face through the periscope, lit by flames she'd started, already moving on to what came next. At some point, I must have drifted off because I jolted awake to sunlight through thin curtains and my alarm screaming. 7 a.m. 3 hours to become the version of myself my children expected to see. I showered in the motel's weak water pressure, dressed in clothes from my go bag, jeans, flannel shirt, the same thing I always wore, looked at myself in the mirror, practiced the expression, shocked, devastated, confused, not angry, definitely not knowing. The drive to Blackstone took 40 minutes. I parked 3 blocks from the sheriff's office, saw Tessa's Audi already there and Trevor's truck. They were waiting outside leaning against the building, coffees in hand. They looked up when I approached. Tessa moved first, dropped her coffee and pulled me into a hug. Thank God, I was so scared. When they said the cabin, her voice caught. She was warm and solid and smelled like the expensive shampoo she'd used since college. Trevor hugged me next. Taller than me now, when had that happened? His beard scratched my cheek. We didn't know if... I'm fine, I said. Kept my voice shaky. I can't believe it's gone. Everything. Not everything, Tessa said. She kept one hand on my arm, proprietary, concerned. You're safe. That's what matters. The investigator was waiting inside. 50s, gray uniform, a face designed for delivering bad news. Name tag, said Morton. He shook my hand, offered coffee I declined, led us to a small conference room that smelled like industrial cleaner. Ms. Rivera, he said, I'm sorry for your loss. I know this is difficult. Just need to ask a few questions for the report. I nodded. Let Tessa sit next to me. Let her hand find mine on the table. Morton pulled out a tablet. You were in Denver when the fire occurred? Yes. Meeting with a film distributor. I got back to my hotel and saw the messages. The lie came easily. I'd been practicing. When did you last inspect the cabin's electrical system? I hesitated. Looked at Tessa, back to Morton. I don't remember. A while. It worked fine. Off-grid solar setup? Yes, I installed it myself, 10 years ago. Morton made a note. Any recent issues? Power fluctuations? Burning smells? This was the plant. The story Tessa had constructed. I could refuse it. Could say no, everything was fine. Could make him work harder. But I needed them to believe I believed. Maybe, I said slowly. Last week I thought I smelled something. Like hot plastic? But I checked and everything seemed okay. Tessa squeezed my hand. You mentioned that when we talked, remember? I told you to get it checked. I didn't remember because it never happened. But I nodded. Right. I was going to. After I got back from Denver. Morton nodded, satisfied. The preliminary report suggests electrical failure. The solar inverter shows signs of overheating. Likely spread to the wall insulation and structural timber. You're fortunate you weren't there. Fortunate, I repeated. The word tasted like ash. The meeting lasted 20 minutes. Morton gave me paperwork for insurance claims. Tessa asked careful questions about timelines and documentation. Trevor stayed quiet, eyes on the table. When we walked out, Tessa suggested lunch. You need to eat. There's a place down the street. We can talk about next steps. I almost said no. Almost told them I had things to do, places to be. But I needed to maintain the performance. Needed them comfortable, unsuspecting. Okay, I said. That sounds good. The restaurant was mountain casual, log walls, deer heads, burgers named after peaks. We sat in a booth by the window. Tessa ordered a salad. Trevor got a beer, even though it was 11 in the morning. I ordered coffee and nothing else. So, Tessa said after the server left, obviously the cabin's a total loss. Insurance will cover the structure value, but... She paused delicately. It's not much. And the land itself, honestly, Claire, it's not buildable anymore. Too remote. Too damaged. The cost of clearing and rebuilding up there would be more than it's worth, I finished. Watched her face. She was good at this. Sympathetic, practical, reluctant to bring up money at such a difficult time. Right, she said. But I've been thinking. I have a contact who might be interested in buying it, as is. Graham Reeves. He does sustainable development. He'd probably take it off your hands, help you start fresh somewhere more accessible. Graham Reeves, I said, you work for him. Tessa blinked. I consult for his firm, yes. That's how I know he's reputable. He'd give you a fair price. How fair? She named a number. It was generous. More than the land was worth in its current state. Enough to make starting over look appealing. Enough to make someone desperate say yes. I let the silence stretch, watched her watch me. Finally, I'll think about it. Of course. She relaxed slightly. No pressure, take your time. Trevor's beer arrived. He drank half of it in one pull. Still hadn't met my eyes. My phone buzzed. Email notification. I checked it casually. Subject, Mountain Lens Festival, selection notification. My heart rate didn't change. I kept my face neutral. Opened it. Dear Ms. Rivera, congratulations. Your film Controlled Burn has been selected for opening night screening on November 15th at 7 p.m., preceding our keynote address. November 15th, 18 days. I looked up. Tessa was watching me. Everything okay? Just spam, I said, lock the phone. I'm going to need a few days to process all this. Of course, Tessa said again. Whatever you need. Where are you staying? Motel in Denver, near the distributor's office. Another lie. I'll probably stay there while I figure things out. We can help, she said, well, with whatever you need. I finished my coffee, stood. I know. Thank you, both of you. Hugged them goodbye in the parking lot. Tessa held on a beat too long. I love you, she said. We're going to get through this. I drove back to the Timberline Lodge and spent the rest of the day editing. Built the film sequence by sequence. Opened with Beauty, my best wilderness footage, 10 years of patient observation, wolf packs, bear families, eagles teaching flight. My voiceover about legacy, about what parents owe their children, about the responsibility of inheritance. Then the shift. Periscope footage. Tessa's voice directing Trevor. The gasoline. The fire. The casual discussion of fraud and payout and Graham's timeline. Intercut with their concerned phone messages. With the investigators' rehearsed conclusions. With footage from Tessa's company website where she talked about honoring wild spaces. No commentary, just juxtaposition. The truth speaking for itself. 23 minutes. I rendered it in 4K, made backup copies. Labeled them all Controlled Burn, Final Cut. 18 days until the festival. Until Tessa's keynote. Until my children sat in a theater and watched what they'd done projected 20 feet high. I emailed the festival director, attached the film, said I looked forward to seeing her in November. Then I turned off the phone, sat in the dark motel room, watched the parking lot lights come on as evening settled over the highway. Somewhere up the mountain, my cabin's foundation was cooling. Somewhere in Boulder, Tessa was planning her keynote speech about environmental responsibility. Somewhere, Trevor was drinking and trying not to think about what he'd helped do. And here, in room 12 of the Timberline Lodge, I was building the thing I knew how to build. Not revenge. A documentary. The truth, arranged for maximum impact. The days collapsed into routine. Wake at 6, coffee from the machine in the motel lobby that tasted like burned regret. Editing until my eyes went dry. The film grew sharper with each pass. Tighter cuts, better pacing, the kind of ruthless precision that comes from caring too much about the work. I added one more element on day 4, found it while scrolling through Tessa's social media, something I'd avoided until necessity made me look. A video from 2 months ago. Her standing on a ridge above a valley, talking to camera about sustainable development. We have a responsibility, she said, wind catching her hair, to preserve these wild spaces for future generations. Not by locking them away, but by finding thoughtful ways to share their beauty without destroying what makes them sacred. The valley in the background looked familiar. I pulled up my own footage, matched the topography. Same ridge. My ridge. The one above my cabin. She'd been scouting the location, performing environmental concern while planning destruction. I added it to the film. Let it play after the shelter footage, after her voice explaining insurance fraud. The juxtaposition needed no explanation. Ons. Day 6, Linda called. I let it go to voicemail. Listened later while eating convenience store sushi that had no right being edible this far from an ocean. Claire. Her voice was softer than I remembered. I know you're processing. I know you need space, but I wanted you to know I'm here. Whatever you need. The kids are worried about you. Tessa says you seem distant. I told her you're probably in shock. It's normal. But please, when you're ready, call me. We were married for 20 years. I still care about what happens to you. Delete. The festival director emailed on day 8. Rachel Hoffman, her name was. We'd met years ago at a conference, back when I still attended those things. She'd always been kind about rejecting my submissions. Claire, I have to say, I'm stunned. Controlled Burn is extraordinary, devastating, and beautiful. I had no idea about your family situation. The fire, I'm so sorry. The film is incredibly brave. We've moved it to our marquee slot, 7 p.m. opening night before Tessa's keynote. I think the thematic resonance will be powerful. Looking forward to seeing you in November. R. Thematic resonance. That was one way to put it. I didn't tell her Tessa was my daughter. Let her discover that organically. More impact that way. Day 9, I drove to the burn site. Needed to maintain appearances. Needed to be seen grieving. Parked on the access road and hiked up through pine forest that didn't care about human drama. The foundation was a black scar against autumn gold. Nothing recognizable remained. Even the metal roof had melted into abstract shapes. I stood there for 20 minutes, let the enormity settle, 10 years of physical space erased, the desk where I'd written grant proposals, the kitchen where I'd cooked simple meals and watched elk through the window, the bedroom where Linda and I had slept when we were still trying to make it work. Gone. But the shelter underneath, I could see the ventilation cap poking through rubble disguised as a vent pipe. Untouched. Everything that mattered still safe below. A sound behind me. I turned. Trevor stood at the tree line, hands in his pockets. "Didn't mean to startle you," he said. "Saw your truck on the road." "It's fine." I gestured at the ruins. "Wanted to see it." He came closer, looked worse than he had at the sheriff's office. Beard unkempt, eyes red. "I'm sorry," he said. "About all this. I know how much this place meant to you." "Did you?" I kept my voice neutral. "Know how much it meant?" He flinched. Yeah, of course." We stood there, mother and son, looking at ashes. I wanted to grab him, shake him, ask him why, how, when he decided I was disposable. But I held still. Waited. "Tessa says you're thinking about selling the land," he said finally. "I'm thinking about a lot of things. Graham's offer is good. You could get a place in town, closer to people, easier living." He wasn't looking at me. "This isolation, it wasn't healthy. We worried about you. Up here? Did you?" "Yeah." He kicked at a piece of charred wood. "All the time." I let that sit between us. Then, "I need to go. Long drive back to Denver." "Right, sure." He looked like he wanted to say more, couldn't find the words. "Drive safe." I left him standing there. Drove down the mountain with him shrinking in my rearview mirror. My son, who'd helped burn my home. Who couldn't even confess when given the opportunity. Who'd rather let me believe in accidents than face what he'd done. The film festival was 12 days away. I started working longer hours, refining every transition. The audio mix took 3 days alone, balancing my voiceover with the shelter footage, making sure every word of Tessa's and Trevor's conversation was crystal clear. No room for misunderstanding, no ambiguity about intent. "Day 14, Graham called. I didn't recognize the number, but answered anyway. "Ms. Rivera?" "Graham Reeves. Tessa gave me your number. I hope that's all right." "Sure." I put him on speaker, kept editing while he talked. "First, let me say how sorry I am about the fire. Terrible loss. Tessa speaks so highly of your work, your dedication to the land." "Does she?" "I understand you're considering selling the property. I wanted to reach out personally. Explain my vision. I'm not interested in exploitation, Miss Rivera. My developments honor the landscape. Sustainable materials? Minimal impact. We work with conservation groups to ensure—" "I've seen your website," I said. "Very impressive. I'd love to show you some of our completed projects. Help you understand that selling doesn't mean betraying the land. It means allowing more people to experience its beauty. Thoughtfully, responsibly." The same language Tessa had used in her Ridge video. They'd coordinated the pitch. "I'm still processing," I said. "Big decision." "Of course. Take your time. But I hope you'll consider it. The offer stands. And Claire, may I call you Claire? I know Tessa. She wouldn't recommend this if she didn't believe it was right for you." I looked at my editing screen. Tessa's face, frozen mid-sentence. "Make sure you get the workshop area." "I'm sure she wouldn't," I said. After he hung up, I added his company logo to the film, pulled it from his website, placed it over the footage of my cabin burning. Let it fade in slowly. Graham Reeves Development, building tomorrow's wild spaces. 8 days until the festival. I drove north. Needed to see the venue. The Blackstone Arts Center was an old mining town opera house, renovated with grants and community funding, red brick, marquee sign, posters in the windows advertising the film festival. I parked across the street, watched people going in and out. Gallery on the first floor, theater upstairs. Capacity maybe 200. Enough. Rachel was inside talking to someone about lighting. She saw me through the window, waved, came outside. "Claire, I didn't know you were in town." "Just visiting. Wanted to see the space." "Come on, I'll show you." She led me in. The gallery was showing environmental photography, glaciers, forests, rivers. Beautiful things, carefully framed. The theater upstairs was intimate, balcony seating, good acoustics, screen maybe 20 feet wide. "Your film will look gorgeous here," Rachel said. We're expecting a full house. Environmental journalists, conservation groups, some filmmakers from Boulder, and of course all the attendees for Tessa's keynote. She's her work on sustainable development has gotten a lot of attention. I'm sure. You must be proud, having your daughter featured at the same festival where you're screening. I smiled. It's something. Rachel showed me the projection booth, the sound system, asked if I had any technical requirements. I told her standard DCP, stereo audio, nothing complicated. She walked me through the schedule. Doors at 6:30, film at 7, Tessa's keynote at 7:30, reception afterward. Will you stay for the keynote? She asked. I haven't decided. 7 days. I drove back to the motel, found Tessa waiting in the parking lot, leaning against her Audi. Trevor said you went to the site, she said when I got out of my truck. No hello. Are you okay? Why wouldn't I be? Claire. She softened her voice. Did the concerned daughter thing. You've been distant, not returning calls? I'm worried. I'm fine. Processing. Have you thought about Graham's offer? Some. She studied my face. I kept it neutral. Years of filming skittish wildlife taught me stillness. There's something else, she said. I heard you're screening a film at Mountain Lens next week. My heart rate didn't change. Where did you hear that? Rachel mentioned it. We've been coordinating about my keynote. She said you submitted something called Controlled Burn. Tessa paused. That's an interesting title, given everything. It's a film about forest ecology. Controlled burns as land management. I've been working on it for years. The lie came smoothly. I'd prepared it. Tessa relaxed slightly. That sounds amazing. I'd love to see it. You will. It screens right before your keynote. Really? Wow. Full circle. Mother and daughter, same night. She smiled. Genuine, as far as I could tell. I'm glad you're still working, after everything. That's healthy. Work is what I know. She hugged me before leaving, tight. I love you. I know I don't say it enough, but I'm proud of you, for staying creative, for moving forward. I watched her drive away, wondered if she'd remember this conversation later, if she'd replay it and see the gaps, the careful non-answers, if she'd realize I told her exactly what she'd see, just not when she'd see it. 5 days. The film was finished. I watched it start to finish, made tiny adjustments. A tighter cut here, a longer pause there. Added one final element, security footage I'd pulled from the festival's website. Their cameras ran 24/7 for insurance purposes. Public access for transparency. I found footage from 2 weeks ago. Tessa, standing on the theater stage, rehearsing her keynote. I extracted the audio, her voice, talking about preserving wild spaces for future generations. Added it as the final line of my film, playing over black after everything else. Her voice, sincere and passionate, completely unaware of the context I'd built around it. 23 minutes, 47 seconds. Final run time. I uploaded it to the festival's secure server, confirmed delivery, backed up all my files one more time. Then I sat in the motel room and tried to imagine what came after. They'd watch it. Tessa, Trevor, probably Linda. Graham definitely. 200 people bearing witness. Press coverage given Tessa's profile. The story would spread. Environmental consultant caught on camera committing arson. The hypocrisy. The betrayal. And then what? I didn't want them arrested. Didn't want courtrooms or lawyers or justice in any official capacity. That wasn't the point. The point was seeing. Being seen. Having the truth projected so large they couldn't look away or explain it or spin it into something manageable. The point was making them watch themselves the way I'd watched wildlife. Documented. Undeniable. True. 3 days. I checked out of the motel, drove to Blackstone, rented a cabin on the edge of town, one of those places that cater to festival tourists. Clean, anonymous, fast internet. I set up my laptop, answered emails from colleagues who'd heard about the fire, offered condolences, asked if I needed anything. I told them all the same thing. I'm fine. Working on a new project. See you soon. Linda called again. This time I answered. Claire, finally, I've been so worried. I'm okay. Where are you? Tessa said you've been hard to reach. Blackstone, there's a film festival. I'm screening something. Silence. Then, the one where Tessa's speaking? That's the one. That's wonderful. Both of you, same event. She must be thrilled. I haven't told her the details. Oh, Linda processed that. Well, it'll be a nice surprise. It'll be something. She heard the edge in my voice. Claire, are you angry with me? Interesting question. Was I? Linda had confirmed my instability to support their story, had collaborated in the erasure, but she'd also left me years ago, had built a separate life. Her betrayal felt older, less immediate. No, I said finally. I'm not angry. You sound different. I am different. We talked for a few more minutes. Surface things. She didn't push. When we hung up, I felt nothing in particular. Just the sensation of closing a door that had been ajar for too long. 2 days. I walked around Blackstone. Mountain town in autumn. Tourists come for the aspens turning gold. Gallery openings. Farm-to-table restaurants. Coffee shops full of people working on laptops, pretending to write screenplays. I got coffee, sat outside, watched people pass. A young woman stopped. Mid-20s, camera around her neck. Excuse me, are you Claire Rivera? I looked up. Yes. I thought so. I saw your photo in the festival program. I'm Zoe. I'm screening in the short documentary category. Your work, the wildlife stuff, it's amazing. I've watched your videos online. The Wolfpack series changed how I think about patients in documentary. Thank you. Are you working on something new? Always. She smiled. That's what I want, to just keep working, keep seeing, never stop. She hesitated. I heard about the fire. I'm really sorry. These things happen. Still, losing all that work, I can't imagine. I didn't lose the work, I said. Just the building. She nodded, understanding the distinction. Right. The work lives here. Tapped her head. And here. Tapped the camera. After she left, I sat with that. The work lives here. 10 years of footage, safe in the shelter. 10 years of learning to see, learning to wait, learning to let the truth reveal itself without forcing it. Nothing burned that mattered. One day, I slept poorly, woke at 4, made coffee in the cabin's small kitchen, watched dawn come up over the mountains, the light spilling down the peaks the way it did every morning, whether anyone watched or not. My phone buzzed. Text from Tessa. So excited for tonight, nervous about my speech, glad you'll be there. Love you. I stared at that message, tried to feel something. Anger, grief, vindication. Nothing came. Just the filmmaker's distance, the observer's neutrality. I texted back, you'll do great. Spent the day preparing, showered, dressed in clean jeans, a button-down shirt, the nicest clothes I owned. Looked at myself in the mirror, 52, gray hair, lines around my eyes from squinting through viewfinders, the same face I'd had in the shelter whispering to the camera. But different now, decided. Drove to the venue at 5. Rachel was there early, managing chaos. She saw me, came over. Claire, you're here. How are you feeling? Ready. The film loaded perfectly. We did a test run this morning. It's powerful, really powerful. She paused. I have to ask, the footage of the fire, that's your cabin? Yes. And the audio? The people talking? That's... She stopped. I don't want to pry, but is that who I think it is? You'll have to decide that yourself. She looked at me for a long moment. Does Tessa know? She will. Rachel nodded slowly. Okay. Okay. Do you want me to... Should I warn her? No. Claire? I'm not asking you to lie. If she asks, tell her the truth, but don't volunteer it. Rachel struggled with that. Professional ethics versus human decency. Finally. It's your film, your choice. Yes, I said. It is. Doors opened at 6:30. I watched from backstage as people filed in. Filmmakers, journalists, conservation advocates, trust fund environmentalists in Patagonia vests. The theater filled steadily. Rachel had been right. Full house. Tessa arrived at 6:45. I watched from the wings as she entered with Graham, both of them working the room. She wore a gray suit, professional but approachable, hair perfect, smile warm. She hugged people, shook hands, laughed at jokes. Graham stayed close, proprietary. They looked like a team. Trevor came in alone, sat in the back, looked miserable. Linda arrived with a man I didn't recognize. New partner, probably. She looked good, happy. I was glad for her. 7:00. Lights dimmed. Rachel took the stage for introductions. Welcome to Mountain Lens Festival. We're honored to open tonight with a world premiere. Claire Rivera has spent a decade documenting wildlife in our Colorado wilderness. Her new work, Controlled Burn, represents a departure, a deeply personal exploration of family, legacy, and loss. Please welcome Claire to introduce her film. Applause. I walked out, saw Tessa's face in the third row, surprised, delighted. She was clapping, beaming, proud mother watching her daughter take the stage. I stood at the microphone, looked out at 200 faces, found Tessa's eyes. Thank you for being here, I said. This film is about what happens when we think no one's watching, about the stories we tell ourselves and the truths we document, about seeing and being seen. I paused. It's dedicated to everyone who's ever wondered what their children really think of them. Stepped back, nodded to the booth. Lights went down completely. The film began. The screen filled with golden light, aspen leaves trembling in wind. My voiceover, quiet and measured. I've spent 10 years learning to watch without interfering, to let animals be themselves when they think they're alone. A grizzly teaching her cubs to fish, patient, repetitive, the cubs failing, trying again. Parenting in the wild is about preparation, about teaching survival before you're gone. Cut to wolves, the pack moving through snow, a yearling learning to track. About trusting that what you've given them will be enough. My cabin appeared on screen. Golden hour light, smoke rising from the chimney. This is where I lived, where I worked, where I thought I was building something that would outlast me. Then the shift. Periscope view, the image quality changed. Grainier, more immediate. The timestamp in the corner. October 28th, 6:47 p.m., footsteps on the floor above. 2 figures coming into frame through the circular lens. I watched Tessa's face from the wings. Saw the moment she recognized herself on screen. Her smile vanished. On screen, her own voice. Pour it along the east wall first. We need the propane line to look like the ignition point. The theater was completely silent. Trevor's voice, nervous. You're sure the investigator will buy it? Screen Tessa, efficient and cold. Dad's been off-grid for 10 years. Faulty wiring, deteriorating structure. It writes itself. I watched Trevor in the back row. His head was in his hands. The film continued, every word of their conversation clearly, audible. The gasoline pouring, the casual discussion of insurance fraud, Graham's name mentioned, the timeline, Linda's cooperation. Make sure you get the workshop area. That's where he kept the editing equipment. Kept, past tense. I was already erased. Then the fire, the first flame catching. Tessa and Trevor filming it on their phones while it burned. Cut to their voicemails. Tessa's concerned voice. Dad, I'm on my way to the mountain. The sheriff called me. There was a fire. Split screen. Tessa's face lit by fire on the left. Tessa's face performing panic on the right. My voiceover returned. My children set my cabin on fire to claim the money. They didn't know I was hiding in the storm shelter below, filming through the observation port. Cut to footage from Tessa's company website. Her standing on the ridge above my cabin talking about preservation. We have a duty to protect these wild spaces for future generations. Then back to the shelter footage, her voice. At least it'll still be about nature. The film showed the insurance investigator, his rehearsed conclusions. Faulty wiring, no suspicion. Cut to Graham's website. Wildflower Ridge Development, luxury eco-resort, my cabin's foundation, smoking. Graham's logo fading in over the ruins. The final sequence, me, in the shelter, whispering to the camera. I've filmed grizzlies teaching cubs to fish, wolves taking down elk. I know what survival looks like. Then Tessa's voice from her keynote rehearsal footage playing over black. We have a responsibility to preserve these wild spaces for future generations. Silence. Black screen. End credits, a single line. For everyone who's ever been erased. The lights didn't come up immediately. Rachel had understood what I needed. Let the darkness hold. When the lights finally rose, the theater was chaos. Whispers erupting into conversation, journalists typing frantically, people turning to look at Tessa, who sat frozen, face pale, Graham beside her, looking murderous. Rachel took the stage. Her voice was shaky. That was Controlled Burn by Claire Rivera. Claire, would you like to say anything? I walked back out. Found Tessa's eyes. She was crying. Silent tears, mascara running. I don't have anything to add, I said. The film speaks for itself. Questions from the audience? Rachel asked. A journalist stood. Ms. Rivera, is that footage authentic? Every frame is real. Time-stamped. I have the original files. Another voice. Have you contacted the police? No. Why not? Because this isn't about legal justice. It's about truth. About being seen. Tessa stood up, her voice cracked. Mom, Claire, I need to talk to you, please. The audience turned to her. Recognizing her now. The keynote speaker, the daughter who'd set the fire. Not here, I said. Then where? I don't know if there is a where. She pushed past people, stumbled into the aisle. Trevor was already gone, couldn't watch himself. Graham followed, Tessa trying to grab her arm. She yanked away. You filmed us, she said louder now. You hid and filmed your own children. You burned my home, I said. Voice still calm. I documented it. That's what I do. You can't. She was falling apart. Everyone's going to see this, my career. Yes. You did this on purpose, the festival, my keynote. Yes. She stared at me. You wanted to destroy me. No, I said. I wanted you to see yourself. There's a difference. Rachel stepped forward. Maybe we should take a break. There won't be a keynote, Tessa said. She was backing toward the exit. I can't. I'm leaving. Graham followed her out. The door slammed. A woman in the front row stood. Ms. Rivera, that took extraordinary courage. Thank you. Scattered applause, growing, half the theater standing, the other half in shock. I walked off stage, went to the green room, sat down and waited for my hands to stop shaking. Rachel found me 10 minutes later. The press is having a field day. This is going to be everywhere by morning. I know. What do you want to do? Go home. Where's home? Good question. The cabin was gone. I had no idea where I belonged anymore. I'll figure it out, I said. I left through the back exit, got in my truck and drove north into darkness, into forest. Found myself on the access road to my property. Parked, hiked up to the ruins. The foundation was cool now. I stood looking at where my home had been, trying to feel something. Still nothing. I heard footsteps. Trevor coming up the trail. Thought I might find you here, he said. I followed you from the festival. Why? Because I owe you. I don't even know what I owe you. He sat down on foundation. I watched the film, saw myself pouring gasoline, heard my own voice, and I wanted to die. I waited. Tessa convinced me it was the right thing, he said, that you were losing yourself up here, that the isolation was making you unstable. She made it sound like an intervention, like we were saving you. By burning my house down. I know how it sounds. But she was so sure, always known what to do. I just followed. He looked up. That's not an excuse. I'm just trying to explain how I could do that to you. You could do it because you stopped seeing me as a person, I said. Started seeing me as a problem. Something to manage. He nodded, started crying. I'm sorry. I know that's not enough, but I'm so sorry. I sat down next to him, not close. Left space between us. What did you think would happen after? Tessa had it planned. You'd sell the land, move somewhere easier, it would fix everything. He wiped his eyes. I didn't think about you watching your home burn. I just believed her story. The story where I needed saving. Yeah. We sat there in the ruins. What happens now? He asked. I don't know. Are you going to press charges? No. Why not? Because I don't want you in prison. I want you to live with what you did. Every day. I want you to look at yourself the way I look at animals, clearly. Without the comforting stories. He absorbed that. That's worse than prison. Probably. He stood up. I'm going to rehab, a place in Oregon. I can't keep drinking through this. Okay. Tessa called me, said you ruined her, said we should lawyer up, fight back. He looked at me. She still doesn't get it. No. I tried to tell her that we did this, that you just showed people what we did. Trevor nodded, started down the trail, stopped. The film, the wildlife stuff at the beginning, that was beautiful. I forgot how good you are at seeing things. After he left, I climbed into the shelter through the exposed entrance. Everything inside was exactly as I'd left it. Hard drives, equipment, 10 years of work, untouched. I sat in the darkness, thought about Tessa somewhere, facing collapse, thought about Trevor, driving to Oregon, thought about Linda, fielding calls from reporters, thought about myself, what I'd done, the public execution. Was it cruel? Yes. Was it disproportionate? Maybe. Desert didn't matter. Truth mattered. Seeing mattered. I stayed until dawn, made a decision. 3 months later, I was living in Blackstone, small studio above the fly fishing shop. Rachel had offered me a teaching position, documentary ethics, visual storytelling. I'd said yes. The film had gone viral, millions of views. Tessa had resigned from every position, deleted social media, disappeared. Graham's company faced investigation. The whole thing unraveled. Trevor was still in Oregon. Sent emails occasionally. Still sober, still trying. I didn't respond, but didn't block him either. Linda came to visit once, sat in my studio drinking tea. You could have told me, she said. You were part of it. I confirmed you were isolated. That's not the same as approving arson. You made it easier for them. She couldn't argue. Tessa's in therapy, says her therapist is helping her understand how she justified it. Good. She wants to talk to you, eventually. I'm not sure I'll be ready. Linda set down her tea. You destroyed her, Claire. Publicly. And you don't seem to feel anything. I feel lots of things. I just don't perform them. That's always been your problem, this distance. Like you're filming us instead of being with us. Maybe that is my problem, I said. Or maybe it's my strength. She left after that. We didn't hug goodbye. I kept working. Finished 10 Years Wild, my original documentary. 90 minutes of pure observation. No humans, just animals, ecosystems, the patient unfolding of survival. I submitted it under a pseudonym, Sarah Chen. Didn't want the notoriety to overshadow it. It got accepted to Telluride, Sundance, Toronto. Reviews calling it meditative, profound, a masterwork. I went to none of the screenings, let the work speak without me. One afternoon, Zoe came to my studio. I'm working on a documentary about documentary ethics, about the responsibility of showing truth. I'd love to interview you. We talked for 2 hours. She asked hard questions. Do you regret it? The public screening? I regret that it was necessary. I don't regret doing it. What's the difference? Regretting necessity means you wish the circumstances were different. Regretting the action means you wish you'd chosen differently. The circumstances were what they were. I shared the truth. Those are just facts. But you chose how to share it. The timing, the location, maximum impact. Yes. That's not neutral observation. That's strategy. You're right, I said. Once you're in the story, you can't document it objectively. You can only decide how to wield the truth. She used that in her documentary, which premiered at Mountain Lens the following year. I sat in the back. During Q&A, someone asked if I'd heard from my children. Trevor emails sometimes. He's rebuilding. I'm glad for him. And your daughter? No, nothing from Tessa. Do you want to hear from her? I don't know. Maybe someday. Or maybe never. Some silences are permanent. After the screening, I walked to the ridge above town. Same spot where Tessa had filmed herself talking about preservation. My phone buzzed. Email from Tessa Rivera. Didn't open it immediately, just stood there holding the phone. Finally opened it. One line. I watched 10 Years Wild. It's beautiful. You taught me to see. I forgot that. I'm sorry I forgot. I read it 3 times. Didn't respond. Didn't delete it either. Just let it exist. Drove back as night settled. Set up my camera. Framed myself in the monitor. The same setup as that night in the shelter, but everything different. Pressed record. My kids set my cabin on fire to claim the money, I said to the lens. They didn't know I was hiding, with their voices on video. Paused. But that's not the story anymore. The story now was about what came after, about living with truth, about the difference between justice and revenge and witnessing, about the slow reconstruction of self after erasure, about learning that sometimes the most important thing you can film is the empty space where something used to be, the question of what grows in burned ground. I stopped recording, saved the file, labeled it after. Tomorrow I'd film something else, a walk in the forest, the creek running high, the ordinary beauty of continuing. Tonight I sat in my studio and looked at the mountains and felt, for the first time since the fire, something like peace. Not forgiveness, not resolution. Just the quiet knowledge that I'd told the truth as I saw it, had wielded it as cleanly as I knew how, and now had to live with what came after. The work of seeing, the work of showing, the work of surviving what you've made visible. Outside, stars came out over Blackstone. Inside, I turned off the camera, made tea, sat in the silence. Tomorrow I'd keep working, keep filming, keep learning what it means to witness without flinching. But tonight I just existed, present, breathing, continuing. The fire had taken the cabin, the film had taken my children, or the versions I'd believed in. What remained was this: the work, the truth, the slow, patient act of moving forward. It was enough. It had to be.